Tonight, chaos in Boston.
In Boston tonight, look at this. This is a police cruiser on fire just a short time ago. You're looking live over the scene now where thousands had gathered protesting the death of George Floyd. The National Guard has now been called in to assist with Boston police. This is just a short time ago. This is a Walgreens. We saw people looting, broke the windows, and were throwing items out the windows to other people, just destroyed. Protesters have been clashing with police. These are just some of the scenes from a short time ago. Police say people have been throwing items, including glass bottles and frozen water bottles. We've seen protesters getting arrested in some cases and tear gas deployed as well. Hi, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm Shanna Malaire. We want to warn you this is live coverage tonight, and some of the language and visuals may be tough to hear.
Well, Shannon, it's a shame that we have to start the newscast like this tonight, but this is the reality in Boston here tonight. The looting has begun in downtown Crossing. This is a Men's Warehouse, one of the hardest hit spots that we have seen. You can see what is left, and it isn't much here. After more than an hour of looting, we've watched it from a safe distance as people have come in, they broke the glass, and it's not just here. A cell phone store also hit, a shoe store also hit, and they have tried, police have tried, really tried to get an upper hand here in downtown Crossing. To some success, they would sweep in with motorcycles, they would sweep in on foot, they would clear it, but then it would pop right back up, and this is the damage that we see here tonight.
It's difficult to watch.
They're just attacking this, the facade of this building here, just completely tearing at it, actually going into it. And I don't see any police officers in that area right there, but we are certainly in that area, which is why we're able to capture these images. And Skylight Jewelers is the name on the window.
Wow.
And those two people have come out. This one person now is trying to do more.
And as we continue to watch this with you, and all of these scenes continue to unfold here in Boston, scenes of violence and people who are obviously certainly upset with what has happened. And this is how it's manifesting itself as we continue to look live right here at these pictures. And people going in and out of someone's business here after they smashed the windows.
Skylight Jewelers, they took the case, they smashed it against the side of the wall. I'm not sure what was in the case.
Right.
They reacted like they were picking up something.
We appear to be looking at a store being broken into and looted right now. That's a live picture you're looking at.
Yeah, that looks like Newbury Street, and
yes,
that's a huge problem. Yeah, that's a huge problem. You can see people running on all floors inside. There will be a rapid response there. That is something that you can't allow to happen, and these guys need to be locked up.
And you see all the debris on the ground. Those are boxes from all these stores. That's not just trash that was discarded from someone's car or, a trash bag.
Right.
And you said, Todd, that they're not
making our way back to the UGG store now.
Yeah, they're not allowing people down the street. You can't get. I mean, you got to this block, but they're not allowing people on the street, huh?
Yeah, they closed it down, so I guess we're sort of limited to a certain section of Newbury. Here's another store.
That's
this
the
is
barber store, yeah.
Barber. I hope I'm pronouncing that
yeah.
correct. Maybe it's Barbour. You see the front window there, all smashed in. There's actually some merchandise left in there, which is good to see. But here again, you see one of the mannequins.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Out here on the ground, just left there. The looting didn't discriminate. A lot of high-end places, and obviously a lot of convenience stores as well. But here on Newbury Street, it's predominantly high-end stores.
The UGG store is right up there on the left.
It's just smashed glass everywhere. People obviously grabbing whatever in the store, Maria. And what you see here, just all smashed glass. And we'll give you another look there inside.
There you go.
And
that's Dan Lang with you.
It's just all
Thank
glass,
you.
broken glass,
I don't see any merchandise really.
That
just maybe
store,
a couple of pairs of shoes.
That's what I wanted
store
to
is
see.
cleaned out.
That's what I thought when you first showed it. Yep, so that store has been cleaned out. And it's interesting, Todd, because a lot of stores, Macy's for one, they boarded things up earlier, much earlier, in anticipation that this could be a possibility. And now we see that it's not only a possibility, it is a reality. As we see that this is what's happened to the trash barrels, and really just a surreal sight on the streets of Boston at 11:21 this evening.
On a Sunday night,
On
the
a
last
Sunday
Sunday in May. It was a
When things have
beautiful
been
spring day today.
And things have been so quiet, as you know, because of coronavirus, and certainly a major disruption of everything. And
now a Boston police cruiser is on fire.
Yeah, that the flames moving from the back of the vehicle toward the front, and yet you still have some of these protesters going up right to the flames. I mean, this vehicle.
Half hours. More looting, walking into the shattered glass, going through with a cart. This is on Boylston Street. This is a place called Concepts.
And then, does the National Guard make their way there to put an end to all of this?
That one guy standing in front with 2 shoeboxes in his hands, casually talking about that. Someone drives up, someone gets out of a car, and they run into the store.
So we know that the National Guard right now, they're in the area of Washington and Essex Streets, which is...
That guy has his hands full of jackets.
On live television, with our cameras.
It really is tragic. Now you just saw a picture of a guy throwing a lighted, and he's got. Now this guy's come with lighter fluid. Okay, so he's an arsonist, and he's the guy that they really have to track down, and then not only arrest him, but find out where he came from, find out what. That fire was put out by some decent bystanders there who didn't want to see the place burn.
Yep, I saw that. And who probably also feared there were people inside.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. But, you know, it's amazing the back and forth and the flow of good deeds and bad deeds that you see in a mob like this.
I can tell you within the past 90 minutes or so, we did walk when we were at City Hall. We walked down to Downtown Crossing, and things were heating up. They were getting very intense. There were police officers in riot gear. They were walking around with batons, but the demonstrators or the rioters at that point didn't care. They were swearing at police officers. They were spray painting their police cruisers, kicking the police cruisers, overturning large potted plants outside the Macy's in Downtown Crossing. And at that point, we decided to turn around and head back to City Hall Plaza. That is where those people started to drive recklessly, flooring their cars in front of police, and that's when we moved.
Watch out. Oh, someone just got hit. Oh, watch out. Oh, several people just got hit. Several people just got run over.
By car?
Someone, I didn't get it. Several people just got run over by a car. The front windshield was shattered.
There were thousands of demonstrators, I'm sure. We don't have an exact figure yet. And then as they began to leave the State House, this is what happened, what you're looking at right now. Again, doesn't say that altogether the protests were this way. Matter of fact, many folks have gone home. There you're seeing some tear gas canisters begin to be shot by police to move the crowd back in that area. And there you see a demonstrator throwing it back. I think on the left-hand side of your screen there, you probably see the police forming a skirmish line where they probably intend to try to march forward. And again, you're seeing the tear gas canisters begin to go down the street there. This is the situation that, of course, you had feared when you saw all of those demonstrations across the country last night, turning violent in every city, just about. Philadelphia, New York, Washington, Atlanta, all the way out to Las Vegas and Los Angeles, forcing curfews in many cities and also prompting many governors in states to call in the National Guard.
And that area right there, if you're old enough to know, the Brigham's was right there. And again, let's go back into Downtown Crossing here, where there has been more of that. As we're watching this happen right before our eyes, people smashing windows and now jumping into the store
And looting.
And taking items out of people's businesses and running out and with our cameras rolling.
These are businesses that have been shut down because of COVID-19, stores that have been locked, unable to sell their products, and now tonight, shattered glass, people breaking in. You can see these are the flower pots that have been tipped over and the pots themselves shattered.
Looting that's starting to occur. When you get fires, arson starts to become a problem. We've seen that in Boston in the past. You really have to move forward, because if you back off and you say, we don't want to use any force here, we don't want to arrest anybody, let's just let them go, then you start to lose large segments of the city, and more people who would normally just be bystanders become involved in this. So it's a real balancing act for the police.
So if you back off, you encourage those who might not who might otherwise not be inclined to be violent. They're going to jump in if you give them too much slack.
That's my take on it, and it's what we've seen over and over again in cities that decided to sort of let them vent, so to speak. And if you just completely allow anything to happen without any intervention, it's a recipe for disaster, in my estimation.
Constant stream of people coming in, arms full of stuff. I actually saw a couple of people who went in, they parked their car, came out with stuff, put stuff in their car, and went back into the mall to loot again. There is absolutely no fear of the crime that they're committing. We did see 2 police vehicles drive by a short time ago with their lights and sirens on, slow as they saw throngs of looters leaving the Copley Place Mall, but then continue going. At this point, unfortunately, this is a free-for-all. More people are continuing to drive up and park their cars in the middle of the street, obviously with the intention of going into this mall and continuing to steal. And there's some folks that are still trying to just break the glass, do whatever damage they can. Even, senseless violence that doesn't seem to have any purpose here, guys. This is certainly not the peaceful protest that we were looking at just a few hours ago.
For most of the night, Sean.
Right, you were with the protesters. You were walking with them.
We were there. It is so disheartening when you speak to the people who were in that crowd and hear the voices that they were trying to get out to the world, their message that they were trying to get out, and now this. To see the 2 polar opposites within just a few hours, you have to wonder what those people are thinking, who are now sitting at home after having marched for miles to try to get a message across.
Right.
You have to wonder what they're sitting and thinking about all of these people who might have been marching right alongside them for hours as well. And now this.
And now this. Can you
people walking out with arms full of stuff.
Marty Walsh will be making public remarks at noon tomorrow.
Sean, tell everybody exactly where you are, just in case people have just clicked on at 12:21. Exactly where you are. Set the scene and take us there.
Yeah, we're at Copley Place. We're across the street from Copley Place, where this is basically Neiman Marcus. I can't imagine that there's anything left there inside Neiman Marcus, but you still have people trying to go in and take things from the mall here. We've been here for nearly half an hour now, and people are running into the store. They're parking their cars on the street, abandoning their cars just so they can go in and continue to loot and steal from whatever is left in this mall. We got here again about half hour ago, and it was going just as strongly as it is now. It's been constant. The police have come by, but haven't stopped, haven't tried to break up any of the looting that's going on here. Obviously, they have probably some bigger fish to fry right now, but there's no sense of order. There's no sense of control here. Not at all.
And so you've been there for a half an hour, and this has just continued.
Unchecked, by the way.
It's
completely unchecked, right?
Downtown Boston, what's going on right now?
Hey, yo, fuck you!
And that's exactly what we had mentioned before. We apologize for that, obviously, with live television and with what's going on right now. Tensions have escalated, and unfortunately, sometimes they result in that.
This is a Men's Wearhouse, and you can see the glass is shattered, and they're leaving with all sorts of suits and other things. This is the Downtown Crossing Men's Wearhouse, and you can see how fast things escalated. We heard a crash a few minutes ago. We saw police move this way, and now we have them inside Men's Wearhouse, and people are leaving with whatever they can grab from inside the Men's Wearhouse here. And it looks like they threw that brick or some sort of stone thing through the window right there, and then they're inside. So let's keep on walking here. We're going to catch up where police are. This is Downtown Crossing, normally a very busy spot, but you can see tonight it is not, from the people that are here and the police that have now formed a line down the road right there. And you can see things are heating up and things are escalated as they break some more glass. This is the Kenmore Army and Navy store in Downtown Crossing. We're hearing more and more sirens in the distance. We're going to catch up with the police line. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah,
more fireworks going off there, as we can see. And earlier on, we did see somebody shooting those fireworks off. It looked like one of the protesters. And so continuing to see that as this line of police officers on feet with the sticks across their chests and trying to disperse the crowd and move them out of that. Backed up with a line of police officers
what a bizarre
on the
sight
motorcycles
this is,
there. It really is bizarre, considering also the fact that we may not see fireworks, you know, the traditional
the 4th of July,
time,
yeah, we're
the
not
4th of July because of
here
coronavirus, and then now you see it during this protest. That
tonight, and it looks like it's cleared out a little bit there. What's going on?
It has cleared out, but unfortunately, around every corner we turn, we find more and more damage. Here's a restaurant, Cafe Bonjour, that opened just a few months ago. The owner tells me, and you could see the damage here, shattered glass, and the owner is actually here. Walk me through how you knew something was going on.
Well, I was watching, you know, like every owner worried. I was watching on my camera at home from my phone and watching protesters and watching people running back and forth and praying to God nothing would happen. And then right before my eyes, I watched a guy right across the street throw a rock, and that was the first hit. And now from there, it was just chaos.
What were you thinking as you watched that?
Loss of word, sad.
But they have been moving, trying to clear the Boston Common. It has been a stressful night for the past 2 hours where people are going face to face with law enforcement. But right now they are trying to clear this area, get people out of here. We heard some incredibly loud flashbangs that were just resonating through the Boston Common. We had no idea what they were, but we actually heard them 3 to 4 times. So right now they are trying to get people out of here. But every so often they are stopping and moving slowly and tactically, but we can see them spraying stuff into the air, trying to get people out of here. It's like a huge cloud of smoke that just passed through the Common here. So Shannon, we're going to send it back to you so we can get out of here and get to some cleaner air.
All right, very good idea. Thank you. Be safe. We appreciate the reporting. We've been seeing these scenes unfold all night long. These are live pictures right now. A few people who are still left on the streets there in Boston, and what's going on down there has not been good. We were looking live at those pictures earlier of that Walgreens. They had broken the windows and were throwing items out the window. It's to the point where the National Guard is now responding to downtown Boston because they need the help at this point, and people simply weren't getting out of the area. You saw Perry show us those trash cans on fire in the park. We watched that police cruiser burn down to the frame before the fire department showed up and put the fire out. But this is the result of the end of the night here. Very different scene from earlier in the day. But as we continue to show you these live pictures right now, things have cleared out, believe it or not. Police have done a pretty good job of trying to secure the perimeter in different areas and sort of force people out of the area little by little. We've seen a number of arrests happen. Tough to say exactly what the arrests were related to, but we did see a number of people get taken into custody as we try to get our bearings here from above. Beautiful look at Boston right now, despite what's going on. We do have a number of other reporters who are on the scene as well. Our Kat Sotnick has been sort of in and out of trouble all night. Kat, I know things weren't the safest earlier for you. Are you a place now where you can tell us what's going on?
Yeah, we had a couple bottles, a plastic bottle thrown at us. Obviously, we're fine. But what we can tell you up here by the State House now is that the tear gas is starting to come up here. You can feel it in the back of your throat. But I do want to show you Boston Common. I think my colleague Perry Russum just showed us some of this. He's further down, but you can see that they have lit many trash cans on fire throughout the common. People are walking by right now. They're coughing from that tear gas, and we heard several loud bangs tonight. And from what I understand, down in the theater district, that was the tear gas that was being released. But this started off, as we said earlier, and how we've been saying it all night long, very peaceful protest. The last couple of hours have really taken a very sour note here in Boston. There's been looting, there's been some rioting. Police have been essentially trapped in their cars by large crowds of thousands of people. But now we're seeing, as we hit 11 o'clock, some stragglers out here causing trouble in the Boston Common. It's very smoky down there, and they've set garbage cans on fire. There's trash all over the road. We were down by the Santander Bank earlier, down here on Charles Street. All of that is smashed out. So there'll be a lot of pickup tomorrow, obviously. But again, a peaceful protest earlier that has now taken a turn for the worse. Back to you, Shannon.
Two totally different stories, Kat. Thank you very much. We continue to take a look at the police here who have, these are live pictures, you're watching this live right now, who have made this perimeter in the downtown crossing area, sort of to the surround of the park. This is where the majority of the issues were in the later portion of the evening, where Eli Rosenberg had shown us some of the looting that was going on by the Men's Warehouse. They saw people running into the windows after they smashed bricks into the windows and were running out with suits. Probably a scene you never thought you would see play out in that area of Boston, let alone period. But this is what we were left with at the end of the night. So you can see there's a number of vehicles there. They seem to have a pretty firm grasp on this area of the city at this point. The fire was not too far from there, where that police cruiser was set on fire. It had been parked because the windows had been smashed out. Look at the debris on the street. There's going to be a big cleanup tomorrow. But as I mentioned, we watched that vehicle burn, and police at that point just had to let it happen. Here they are again in that crosswalk, keeping the peace, trying to make sure the last few people get out of the area. This is actually a much improved scene over what was going on maybe just 20 minutes ago even. What Perry and Eli had been showing us was pretty confrontational at that area in downtown Boston, downtown Crossing rather. And we had seen earlier in the evening that a lot of those stores had actually boarded up in anticipation of something like that happening. And unfortunately, they were right, and it did happen in a few stores down there as well. So there is going to be significant cleanup in the morning for those stores as well. We want to go now to our Michael Rosenfield with the latest from that area.
Well, we still have a fairly tense scene here on Washington Street, about a block or two away from downtown Crossing. But at this point, most of the crowd has dispersed, but the ones that remain are sort of getting into it with Boston police. And right behind me, you can see a lot of people in the crowd are on their knees. They're addressing the police officers. They've been yelling at some point. Police did take a lot of water bottles for quite a while. That has seemed to have died down. We have about 50 police officers here at the intersection of Washington and Avery, about a block or two away from downtown Crossing. Again, the crowd has dispersed for the most part, but again, you see many people here on their knees, just sort of sitting face to face with police. And police have been extremely calm through this whole thing, even though they've been taking water bottles and lots of yelling. They sort of maintain their position here at this intersection. They've got their clubs, they've got their helmets, they've got their masks on. At one point, we did feel some pepper spray or some type of tear gas or spray. Some people said they could feel it in their eyes. We did as well. Not sure where that came from. We did see 3 ambulances come through the crowd. They did take one person away, and police were doing an excellent job protecting the paramedics and making sure they were able to take the patient to a local hospital. Not sure why that person was injured in the first place. But again, about 50 or so police officers here at this intersection trying to keep control of this crowd. Back to you.
Michael, thank you. And sort of just a reminder, too, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and a lot of those first responders have been very busy doing other things for weeks and weeks on end. So then to have to respond to something like this was probably the last thing that they needed on a night like tonight. We continue to take a live look over Boston.
Shannon, we were at City Hall, outside City Hall, about 45 minutes ago, but moved further down Cambridge Street, closer to MGH. Because people were driving recklessly past police, flooring their cars, driving at very high speeds, and they were not fazed, apparently, by the fact that there were dozens of police officers there. City Hall is where the peaceful demonstration started around 3 o'clock this afternoon that you were mentioning. That demonstration then headed down Cambridge Street. It made its way past the State House, eventually down Boylston Street. There were some officers heading down Cambridge Street. We're not sure what that's about. They're coming from City Hall, or from Government Center, and heading down down here. So even though it has ended violently tonight, that is not how this day started. It actually began with a peaceful protest that attracted thousands of people. Back to you guys.
Yeah, certainly not representative of the majority of the day. Mike, thank you very much. These are live pictures we continue to watch here. Sort of a fascinating tactical move here that we're watching from the police as they try to sort of get the last few people out of this area of Boston. They're lined up there, and I believe I saw some members of the National Guard who are responding to downtown Boston, by the way. It appears that, yep, some of them are on scene there as they try to hold their ground here in this area, and my guess is that they'll then move forward with different sweeps in those different directions as they try to get those last few people out of that area. They have a very tactical way of doing this. They train for this. They know exactly what they're doing, and they try to do it obviously without anybody getting hurt and while keeping themselves safe as well. It was interesting because earlier in the day we had said from so many of our reporters that we saw such a low police presence for the most part, but during the peaceful protests, I think that's mostly by design, that you let people move and move along, you know, peacefully. And then when you need to, they obviously were prepared for what was coming after that. We will keep an eye on exactly what they're doing there. In the meantime, let's go to our Malcolm Johnson. Malcolm, you started your day in Roxbury. Wonderful start to the day, peaceful, people speaking their minds. And towards the end of the night, things got a little crazier.
Yes, Shannon, that's right. For about 3.5 miles and 3.5 hours or so, things were incredibly peaceful, organized, and resilient. There was a lot of discipline amongst the crowd members and the demonstrators that were here. Their end point was the State House, which is just behind me here on Park Street. But after they made their way here and there was no longer a demonstration to ensue and there was a lack of structure to what was to take place, and the majority of people left, you had those who some might call troublemakers stay here on the scene. If we just turn around, you can see right now there's a face-off between police and between the protesters that remain here. The police are trying to make their way down Tremont Street, and there is a large number of protesters that are trying to block them from continuing to move forward. So as they advance in very, very slow increments, small increments down Tremont Street, the protesters will make their way in their direction. And that's where you have the face-off. You see a number of these protesters with their hands up, symbolizing the hands up, don't shoot. But at the same time, while hands up, don't shoot is a message of peace inherently, they've been antagonizing the police. So you could say it's hard to have it both ways, to say hands up, don't shoot, but at the same time try and have it out with the police officers that remain here. So we've seen pepper spray deployed by some of these officers to make them back up, and that's what they have done. We've seen the National Guard here, we have seen Mass State Police, and we have seen Boston Police, all three of these parties trying to clear out the remainder of protesters that are here. We're going to continue to stay on this story. The good news in all of this is that the amount of people here has significantly decreased, and that's why I think this scene that we're seeing play out may begin to thin out and come to an end, hopefully within the next hour or so. We'll send it back to you on the studio.
That's good, Malcolm. Thank you. Here's hoping. Be safe. We appreciate your reporting. I want to get to this. Some tweets from Mayor Walsh. He says he wants to thank the officers of the Boston Police Department and all the public safety agencies for their professionalism tonight. They're working hard, as they always do, to keep our city safe and treat our residents with respect. I am angered, however, by the people who came into our city and chose to engage in acts of destruction and violence, undermining their message. If we are to achieve change and if we are to lead the change, our efforts must be rooted in peace and regard for our community. And so obviously he's keeping tabs on what's going on in downtown Boston. This is his city, and he doesn't like what he sees right now. So again, Mayor Walsh getting on Twitter to thank thank the police, but to tell other people to knock it off, basically. These are live pictures as we see the police now slowly moving through this area of Boston. Streets very empty. Malcolm was right. They have significantly decreased the amount of people, and we see the National Guard there with them as well, who came in to help because it got that bad, especially in downtown Crossing, where there was looting and a number of arrests taking place as well. We haven't gotten a number on the arrests from police. They've been a little busy. I'm sure that'll come out in the morning, but it seems they have a pretty decent handle on this area of Boston right now. But keep in mind, this is just a few streets over from where a police cruiser was set on fire that we watched burn for almost an hour before the fire department had to come and put that out. So that's the situation there right now. Let's go back to Eli Rosenberg. Eli, you have really been right in the midst of all this in downtown Crossing. You've seen something.